Hi, my name is Steven.
It is I, Kevin.
And I am David, the eldest champion.
And we are the Brothers Born.
We invite you to bear witness as this most unlikely of throwdowns about to commence.
Hey, we're back to the Unlikely Throwdowns podcast. We still
Minus
have
David again.
minus David again. We do have a challenge coming up with David and Kevin where I assign them a character, and I'm curious to see how that goes. But in the meantime, we have a guest judge today who's going to judge this throwdown that Kevin and I are going to
And, and
develop.
it and it isn't Brendan this time.
It is not Brendan. It is none other than our other third person that usually comes, Kali.
It's me. I'm back again.
Yes. Well, it's your first time on this podcast, but welcome. It is good to have you. You can hear Kali on several episodes of our other podcast, Brothers Born podcast. Check that out at your own leisure.
Yes.
I have a character today. Kevin, you have a character?
Yeah, I do. I've been
Kali,
wanting to do this. I've been wanting to do this character for a long time, actually. So,
well, good. Kali, who would you like to introduce their character first?
Steven, you go first.
All right. My character first appeared in a video game, and then more recently in a TV show. Any
that's
guesses yet?
very descriptive.
Well,
That
once you
describes a lot. That describes a lot of characters.
once you figure out who it is, oh yeah, duh. Okay, my character is a survivor
Okay.
in an apocalyptic world.
Oh, are you talking about what's his name from The Last of Us?
Yes, Joel Miller from The Last of Us. Wow. See, I knew you'd get that pretty quickly. Um, yeah, Joel is he was like a concrete worker or something like that, some sort of contractor. And it was like the early 2000s, and a zombie outbreak occurs, based off of a fungus rather than a virus, which is kind of a different approach to the zombie thing. Um, but in the midst of the first big episode of these things coming alive, his daughter is actually killed by a soldier, like a guy who's meant to just kind of almost like a I don't know, I don't know who you would National Guard, Peace Corps, I'm not Peace Corps, but like some sort of guard out there.
I mean, he get killed by a Peace Corps. That's hard. That's hardcore right there.
No, his daughter is killed by a human, not a zombie, and because he's trying to just kill and maybe potentially infected people. The world's chaos. So Joel's really hardened by this, and for 20 years he just sinks deeper and deeper into himself and into depression and just survivor mode, and doesn't really care as much about what other people think or do. He gets a lot less I don't know, just survivor mode. In an apocalypse like that, you just out for yourself and his closest friends. And yeah, so I think he's an interesting character. Of the main like zombie franchises out there, The Last of Us, I think, is one of the better ones. So I'm excited to represent Joel Miller in um this throwdown. I do want to point out really quick, sidebar here. Have either of you noticed there's a whole lot of like shows and movies with this us or me thing going on? Check this out. The Last of Us. This is us. This is me now. Us. It ends with us. All of us are dead. We live
Oh,
in time. We were the
oh wow.
lucky ones. Like all these like shows
That's a
and
lot.
movies, they're just like all about us and me and we. Some of them are really good, like The Last of Us. Some of them are really dumb, like This Is Me Now, the Jennifer Lopez movie. But there's just a lot of us and me and we in these things over like
What
the last few years, I've
What do
noticed.
you want? Or you just want to switch it up to you
There's a
and
lot of those already too, though.
moving on. So I've been wanting to do this character for a while. I have a lot of information because this character has been around for a very long time.
Oh boy.
Um, I would say he's like one of the original in modern day type superhero characters, but he doesn't have superpowers.
Huh.
Um, so
Okay.
We
he
already did
debuted.
Batman and we've already done the Punisher, so it
Yeah,
can't be either one of those
it's
guys.
neither one of those. We didn't. Well, we sort of did the Punisher.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he debuted originally in 1919
Oh
in
wow.
a novel that was called The Curse of the Capistrano.
It sounds like an Italian meat product.
It does sound like
I'll
an
have one
Italian
of
meat
the
product.
Capistrano on rye, please.
It was first published in 5 parts on the pulp magazine All Story Weekly, so he's a pulp character.
Okay.
Since then, the character has appeared in at least 57 short stories, 40 films, and 10 TV shows, as well as many comic books, comic strips, and radio dramas.
Dick Tracy?
Um, nope, not Dick Tracy.
Oh
Well,
man, that'd
that
be a
would be
good
a good
one
one.
though.
So this character is, I would say he's like the OG of masked vigilantes with a secret identity, whose influence can be seen in characters from the Lone Ranger all the way to Batman. Honestly, he's like the original Batman.
Interesting. What's the
And he has
most
this.
recent adaptation that you can think of?
There is a Spanish speaking television show that is on not Netflix, Amazon Prime. The most recent adaptation that you probably are familiar with stars Antonio Banderas.
Oh, Zorro.
Zorro. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Talking about
Zorro
Zorro.
versus Joel Miller. That's cool.
Some of their background in Zorro is he's the only son of a nobleman named Don Alejandra de la Vega.
Alejandra.
Don
De la
Alejandra
Vega.
de la Vega.
That's sweet. I wish you and I could speak Spanish.
I know, me too. So he operates primarily in California, around the area which is now known as Los Angeles. It's between the years of 1769 between 1821 are the years that he operates.
So it wasn't California yet then?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
That's why I said what is now Los Angeles.
Oh,
See?
okay.
Yeah.
De la Vega.
Despite his noble heritage, he fights for the commoners and the indigenous people of California against corrupt officials and villains.
So he's almost like a Robin Hood, so to speak.
Yeah, he's very Robin Hood-like. I think
Oh.
Robin Hood probably highly influenced this individual.
Interesting.
Let's see.
Zorro.
I got 2 more things real quick about his
Sure.
personal
Yeah.
background. So as a mass vigilante, he is a very skilled fighter and a good horseman. And as a secret identity, he acts like a kind of like a noble douchebag.
It's always a good secret identity to have.
Yeah, he even like because a lot of his enemies are like nobles, but when he's like in his secret identity as a noble, he's like friends with like these people who are actually his enemies as Zorro. And as a nobleman, he seems like a cowardly, sort of not particularly skilled individual. So he's, hiding like Batman and Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, interesting. He like kind of hides behind this like rich playboy facade thing.
Exactly. Also, just like Batman, his hideout is in a cave near his homestead.
That's
This is
cool.
where he keeps his equipment and his trusty horse named Tornado.
That's a good name for a horse.
It is.
Is it? This
I
is
approve of
interesting
that.
because like a lot of kids right now know Batman. There's a new Batman TV show called The Caped Crusader out on Amazon Prime, and I myself did not realize Batman was inspired by Zorro. And then you just said Zorro was inspired by Robin Hood. So if you keep going back and back and back, it's like it's the same tropes over and over again, kind of, but
it
with
kind
a
of
new
is.
spin. That's cool, Zorro. I like it. Well, why don't we take a quick break and get amped up for this unlikely throwdown? I would say this is a pretty unlikely one. I don't see this happening anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think Zorro and Joel
Yeah,
are.
yeah, no.
So,
think-
all right, let's take a quick break and we'll come back.
Hello there. Do you like the sound of my voice? That's a stupid question. Of course you do. And because you love my voice so much, you probably want to hear it with more clarity. Well, good news. You can help make that happen. You see, having access to better equipment means better quality, but better equipment is expensive. By donating some funds our way, you can help us improve the equipment we have and help us with any fees and the like we accumulate while producing content. We have 3 tiers of donation available. First is a monthly payment of 99 cents. Tier 2 is a monthly payment of $4.99, and our third tier of monthly payment is $9.99. To make donations, follow the link embedded in this episode's notes. There is of course no obligation, and you can still listen to our content for free. But if you love my voice, as well as those of my bros, or if you just want us to have a better looking site, we would welcome your support. Thank you in advance, and please enjoy the rest of the show.
And we're back to Unlikely Throwdowns.
We are back on like the Throwdowns. We have our guest judge, Kali,
Yes.
who's my favorite daughter.
I'm your only daughter.
That makes you my favorite. And
Okay.
we have Zorro versus Joel. What's his last name? What's Joel's last name?
Miller, Joel Miller.
Joel Miller.
Yeah, dude, this is an interesting throwdown. I'm excited to see where this takes us. I'm gonna be upfront. I've barely played the Last of Us video game. I've played a little bit of it. I'm familiar with the character. I've mostly watched the TV show though. I've read a lot about like what happens in the story and stuff, but I haven't actually played the game from beginning to end. Want to put that disclosure out there if there's any diehard fans and I misrepresent him in any way, I apologize.
I'm also going to put a disclaimer out. Of the hundreds of Zorro related media, I've only seen like, two movies. So, and those are the Antonio Banderas ones, which were good. But Antonio Banderas' Zorro is like a different character, I think.
It's all right. We'll make it work. Kali, who would you like to discuss their abilities and things first?
Um, Kevin, you go ahead and do that this time.
All right. Well, first I'm talking about his equipment and his costuming here first. So he wears all black and includes a cape, and a mask that covers the eyes, and he also wears a sombrero.
Oh,
What's
style points right there.
so exactly style points. He has a sombrero and a cape. I mean,
That is pretty
that's
rad.
obviously, yeah, he's automatically a winner because of that reason right there.
The
Not
ideal
necessarily.
man wears both a sombrero and a cape.
Um, he's also some of his equipment. He has a rapier, a bullwhip. Those are his two main weapons. He also keeps a dagger in his boot for emergencies.
Of course.
Uh,
Who doesn't? Honestly,
yeah, I mean,
who
honestly,
doesn't keep a dagger in
um,
their boots for
Honestly, I
emergencies?
need to start wearing boots so I can
he's
hide a
been
dagger in them.
he's been known to use his cape in combat as like either a distraction technique or to help trip up or disarm his opponents. He has
Has
weighted boots,
it's never
so
tripped him up that you're
no,
aware of?
no, of
He's
course
too
not.
good for that. He has the
Exactly.
sombrero.
Yeah, that's it
Um,
right there.
his his boots are weighted, so like I guess when he kicks people, it's kicks him harder. I don't know. His
Here's a
hat is
question.
also
So
weighted.
if his boots are weighted, is the boot that has the dagger a little bit less heavy to kind of keep it equal?
It doesn't go into
Because
those
that
kind
might
of
throw
details,
everything
man.
off. That might throw his entire balance system off, man. That
Uh,
dagger.
his hat is
Same.
also weighted.
He just ignores me.
It's weighted so so he can more easily throw it at his enemies as a distraction or as a means to frustrate and insult them. So one thing about that's really cool about Zoro is he likes to insult his enemies.
That's pretty cool, actually.
It's part of his like skill set, which I'll get into a little bit. I was just talking about his equipment for right now. Why don't you go ahead and discuss some equipment things, and then we'll get into his skills and abilities.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Joel, his equipment kind of varies based on the situation he's in. Because he's living this apocalypse. He's always got some sort of gun, usually a rifle, like a hunting rifle. He has a handgun at times. He has, I believe, like survivor gear, like knives, rations, backpack with like emergency supplies. This dude could be out in the wild for long amounts of time and be okay because he just has those survival instincts. So he has a lot of necessary like camping gear and things like that, but also keeps it to a minimum because he wants to be able to get out quick if he needs to. So mostly just a backpack full of necessary items. One thing he does have like little caches of supplies based on where he's going to be. So throughout his immediate area, there's like an abandoned building or something, and he stashes and hides equipment, guns, ammunition, and supplies and things like that. He has a couple of those around based on where, like, when he needs it. If he's going somewhere, it allows him to travel light. 'Cause, if I go that way, I'll be able to pick up that equipment I left there last time. So he's adaptable, tries to keep it minimal, but at the same time, he's got a lot of resources because he knows how to store it and hide it in places. But
But he
day in, day
doesn't have a
out,
cape or a sombrero.
no, but he's got like a nice pea coat.
Oh, peacoats are nice.
Yeah.
Can appreciate a good
My
peacoat.
man has also ridden a horse. He's also had a truck and cars. He's been able to hotwire them, even though this is several years in the future. In an apocalyptic world, fuel's hard to come by, but he's able to siphon fuel out of things and get cars started again, even after not being used for a long, long time.
I just want to point out Zoro doesn't. He lives in a time when cars weren't even in existence, so he doesn't have to worry about siphoning fuel.
He also didn't live in a time with like easy access to guns either, which Joel does have.
People had guns back in the 1700s.
Not like the guns Joel's carrying. No, let's be real.
They didn't have like an AR-15 back in the
I mean, you have
1700s.
that is a fair point.
Um, but yeah, he doesn't have the finesse that Zorro has, but he has practical uses of equipment and clothing and things like that. He dresses warm when he needs to dress warm. He dresses cool when he needs to dress cool, and has access to a lot of supplies and necessary items.
You know what he doesn't have? A cool calling card. So Zora has a cool calling card by cutting Z's and things. He cuts it inside like his opponent's face, be like, "Ha, you've been attacked by Zorro." Or if he like attacks a area and he wants his enemies to know that he pulled one over on him, he'll put a Z on the wall or the door or something like that, so they always know Zorro was here.
See, Joel tries very hard not to be seen and not to
Well,
have
he's
a
not
calling.
seen when he does it.
No, what I'm saying, he doesn't. He lives in a world where you don't want that. You don't want people to know who you are or any sort of like indication. So he stays in the shadows, very sneaky, very stealthy. He can sneak up on in the game anyway. You're not fighting just zombies. You're fighting thugs and dudes and stuff. And he uses like things as distractions. You mentioned the sombrero and stuff. Joel has got like he'll pick up a bottle and throw it, or you can pick up like rocks and things like that to distract people, so you can better get up behind him and sneak up on him. He's really good at like choke holds and just hand-to-hand combat. Sure, he's not like a trained swordsman like Zorro, but he's willing to get dirty and get rough when he needs to. He's not. He doesn't have to abide by the rules of his craft. He just does what he needs to do to get the job done.
All right. Well, since you started going in that, let's get into some skills. Well, actually, first, Kylie, do you have any questions so far?
No, this has all been pretty straightforward.
Okay. So let's talk about some skills that he has. Zorro he's highly intelligent, and he's able developing complex strategies in preparation for battle. So you know they always say Batman can do anything if you give him enough prep time.
Yes.
Zorro's the same way, man. So as long as he's able to complete these complex strategies, in preparation for battle, but he's also really good at improvising when he's in danger. He's a master of infiltrating heavily guarded territories, as well as an expert in espionage and improvised devices. Um, he's also something of an escape artist. Dude's like Houdini, man. He can escape from anything. Um, and like this ability to sort of, use improvised devices and stuff. I think if you was in Joel's world, you could easily, you know, improvise the use of, modern firearms and things like that. I think a Zorro could do that. Um, he doesn't rely on brute strength, but he's a very capable, skilled hand-to-hand fighter. But he's also, you know, an expert swordsman. He's expert with his bullwhip. He has ability to get into the heads of his opponents. So he's always like using humor and teasing and insulting his opponents to like sort of get in their headspace. That kind of throws them off guard. Makes it easier for him to, fight them. So he's really good at manipulating his enemies into, you know, being easily defeated by them. Um, and he uses this to his advantage to give him an edge in combat. He is also known to understand multiple languages, so he can speak all kinds of languages. That's
That is
really not going to
cool.
help
That
him
is
to
cool.
fight. But
It's still cool.
It
I assume
diplomacy
Spanish and
though, for
English are
sure.
two of those languages. I don't know about the rest of his languages, but
I mean, I don't know that much Spanish, but I mean, if you were to walk up to me and just start spouting Spanish, I'd probably be a little bit intimidated.
especially if he had a sombrero and then you like threw it at you and then he busted out a rapier and just started cutting Z's in your face.
Yeah, I probably would just, nope.
I'd be like, whoa now,
Hold
you
on
got
there.
this, dude. What do you need? Because I ain't about to fight you right now.
All right. Well, this is a little challenging because the worlds these two men live in are vastly different from each other. Um,
Yes.
Zorro is in a world where there's like politics and stuff and like a little bit of you know, he's trying to I don't know. There's no threat of zombies in Zorro's world that we're aware of.
No, there are no
Um,
zombies in Zorro's world.
so in whereas in Joel's world, there's little like cities throughout the country, throughout the world that are kind of have their own. They're supposed to be under this big government, but some of them are they're not a lot of communications. Some of them turn into like dictatorships. Some of them are a little more free spirited, and he has to navigate this world as he makes his trek west. And he has been able to take down some of these more ruthless pods of people um, through, sneaking around, doing his thing with his. Of course, he does have his companion Ellie, as the young girl who was with him for the majority of the game. Um, so not really sneaking around and like carving Z's, but he'll like hide a lot. He try actually he in the game and as well in the show, when you can get away with not fighting, you don't fight because that's more risk you're putting yourself at. So he sneaks around, tries to only fight when necessary, and for again for survivorship.
I feel like Zorro kind of has that same sort of vibe. Like, that's why he comes up with these complex plans. He's not trying to just go in, well, swords blazing, I guess you would say. Um, I mean, but he,
Oh,
ca- but if he's stuck in a hot spot like that, he could definitely get out of it because he's a master escape artist.
yeah, that's true. Like a Houdini, like you mentioned.
Houdini with a rapier sounds absolutely terrifying.
That is
Just saying.
You know what is really terrifying? The infected in The Last of Us. So you have runners, which are your basic zombies that run. You have the clickers, which are they've been infected a little bit longer and they kind of a little bit bigger and they're a little bit quicker and they make this creepy clicking sound. And then you got bloaters, the really big fat ones that have been bloating. They've been zombies for a long time and they're really, really thick and difficult to beat. But my man Joel takes one down with a machete. So that is pretty rad. Um, and challenging, sure. He doesn't have the finesse with the sword and stuff, but when there's a big, huge hunk of junk zombie coming at you and all you got's a machete and you still beat him, there's something to be said for that. Just saying.
I suppose you're right about that. Zorro could just use a bullwhip, dude. He'd be whip that dude, that thing, tie it all up with his bullwhip, say some sort of witty thing towards it, even though it won't matter because it's a zombie, so it's not gonna really understand wit. And then, like cut him up with the sword for a little bit. I don't know. Dude, Zorro's the man. That's all I'm saying. He's like the first superhero.
He I mean, he is cool. I'm not gonna ever deny that Zorro is awesome. He's really sweet and been an inspiration for generations of media. But when it comes to a face to face with a hardened Joel Miller, oh man, I don't know. That's a tough one. Joel's got guns. I don't want to make that the main reason he can win because that's not entirely fair. But he does have, I think his weapon resource is a little bit more substantial than what Zorro's got. Yeah, Zorro has the whip. He's got the cape. He got all the cool stuff. But in a reality, in like the real world, which neither one of these are, but if it was, I feel like Joel's weapons would be
I,
a little more practical in an
I
actual encounter.
I will say I feel like the only reason Zorro doesn't have like modern guns is because they're not around. They don't
That's true. He
exist
would
yet.
have something sweet if it
Yeah,
did
he would have
exist.
at least like
Like
a
I can
pistol.
definitely see him carrying maybe not like a hunting rifle like Joel does because I think that'd be too cumbersome, but I can definitely see him carrying like a 45 pistol or something like that.
No, dude, he'd have like a sweet like a bunch of Derringers or something like that, or
Yeah, he probably would.
like
He'd probably
I
have
feel
some.
like he would have
little
a
cute
revolver.
pistols.
Just
Yeah,
saying,
some
the
like
revolver
some
kind of fits the vibe.
the gun would have flair, that's for sure. It would have a
Yeah, it
certain
definitely
like
would have flare. A revolver might maybe he'd have like one of those cool revolvers like that has like the barrel on the bottom chamber instead of the top one.
oh like Bash the Stampede.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joel is as far as personality wise, I think he's the opposite of Zorro. Joel likes to stay hidden. He's very rugged, rough, like stereotypical manly guy, you know? Whereas Zorro, obviously, he's manly, but he's got a bit of a feminine side in that he's so like flashy and like he's got
Yeah,
this like
he is a little bit on
certain
the flashy
swagger
side.
that Joel does not
I mean,
have.
he wears a
Yeah, like
sombrero.
a
Joel would
flair for
never
the
wear a
dramatic.
sombrero.
No, never, ever, ever. But Joel does probably wears Carhartt stuff, you know? I don't know if that's around still, but I imagine like before he even the zombie apocalypse, he's already kind of a rugged dude. He's like a contractor, blue collar worker, which is awesome, and like the world needs those. And he was contributing in that way. But back then, he was a little softer. This world he's in has hardened him to the point where he will break any rule necessary for his survivor or the survival of his like closest people, like Ellie or Tess or like his brother Tommy. He'll do anything to make sure they're okay.
I do feel like Zorro is probably more gentlemanly overall.
Oh, for sure,
Um,
100%.
like he's gonna he might limit himself to some degree, but he can because he's Zorro and he's awesome. He's wears a sombrero.
So I'd like
It all comes back to the drip, man.
um I'd like to go into some quote game, a little bit of
Okay.
quotes.
I've got a lot of quotes, so
I don't have that many, so why don't you give me a couple first?
all right. There's one where he says, I don't know what the context of it is, but his is like, on the contrary, the funeral shall be yours.
Oh,
That's
that's
pretty.
pretty.
That's pretty
That's
crazy
pretty
thing to
sick
say
right
to
there.
somebody.
Dude, I want him to go up against Darkwing Duck.
Yeah,
All their little quips.
yeah, that's true.
All right, keep going.
Um, and there's a scene where this guy's repeatedly stabbing a fruit with like a fork or something, some captain, and he's like, "Captain, you seem to regard that fruit as an enemy." I just thought that one was funny. I don't know.
I like that. I like that
That's
a lot.
pretty. That's pretty good.
Um, one of his because I say he always talks to people and like insults people and stuff like that. So he's fighting this guy, and his enemy's like, is he asks him, his enemy asks him, is like, is your blade as sharp as your tongue? And he says, is yours as dull as your wit?
That is that's pretty good. He's got a lot
Yeah,
of
man,
like quips. I like that.
yeah, he has a ton of quips. He's like a master of quips. Why don't you hook me up with throw something out there for
All
me?
right, all right, all right. So Joel Miller's quotes are not fun at all because let's be honest, he lives in a world that sucks real bad. So, but he says, I struggled for a long time with surviving, and no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. So he's always, even it's also hard. He's an interesting character because, for all intents and purposes, he has no reason to live anymore. In some ways, like you're in that depressed state, your daughter's passed away. But when he finds Ellie, he has this new purpose and he begins to soften up a little bit. But he has all these reasons to keep surviving and stay tough, even when the going gets really, really hard. Um,
All right.
Endure and survive. That's another quote he says. You sacrifice the few to save the many. Let's see. Let's see
Well,
here.
let's see, I got, well, I'm not particularly interested in being killed if I can avoid it. Um,
That's
uh,
that's good life advice, honestly.
when someone asks him, do you really believe that life is fair? He says, no, but I plan to do everything in my power to make it so. So, that's cool. I mean, he's a man for the people. But he's not no chump either, because there's another time where tells somebody, he's like, I'll make a deal with you. If in 2 hours you are still within 5 miles of Los Angeles, I will kill you.
All right, pretty straightforward.
That's that's pretty yeah, I do like Zorro's quotes, I'm gonna say. But again, there's more fun. Joel can't have any fun quotes. He just doesn't doesn't have them because
Joel is depressed.
he's it's a real bummer of a situation he's in. But I don't want to spoiler alert, I'm not gonna go into details. The first season or the first game ends and he makes a pretty unethical decision.
Yeah, no, I've seen the entire
So,
show, first season.
some people, I won't say what it is. I don't want like spoilers and stuff, but he makes a pretty big decision that has a huge impact, possibly on humanity. And he says in the second game, if somehow the Lord gave me a second chance, I would do it all over again, implying that he, although the
He
consequences of his choice are
he
kind
makes
of
it he makes the choice of putting the one over the many.
yes, he takes his this relationship, he takes the love he has for Ellie is more important than his love for the rest of
Zoro
mankind.
likes Zoro likes a good lady though. So like there's one point where he jumps into he jumps into this runaway carriage from above. He like jumps onto it. And he said, and there's a lady in there. He says, "Forgive me, senorita, but I usually help a lady from a carriage more gracefully than this."
Definitely, like he goes, like you say, he's more of a gentleman for sure. Um, he does. Now, that being said, Ellie and Joel have a little thing where they do stupid puns with each other. And there is one he says, he asks, what is the downside to eating a clock? It's time consuming. So him and Ellie have this like thing where they do a lot of like pun
Like
jokes.
dad jokes.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
that's sort of
That
his
is such.
that's sort of his character though. Like even though he's not Ellie's father, like he is this dad like character. Um, and I think he's very complex and very interesting. No disrespect to Zorro, but he's all flash and no depth. That's how I feel.
I don't know. He's got a lot of depth, I think. Um, well, I was gonna give you one more quote that I think was like a really good quote that encapsulates. All right, so he says, a nobleman is nothing more than a man who says one thing and thinks another. So he has this understanding that people aren't always who they show face value. Um, so
Interesting.
he's
He
really
might
got,
have some insight
he,
into Joel then, because when you see Joel,
yeah.
you picture Joel's got a soft spot deep down, but he doesn't let it be seen. So Zorro might be
See,
perceptive of that.
Zorro would be perceptive of that, and he would exploit it, I think, because that's just, I mean, that's kind of his skill level. He's like a psychologist in a lot of ways, I think.
Oh no. A Houdini
He's a sombrero,
psychologist with a rapier.
cape sombrero wearing psychologist that carries a sword and fights evil, but then also pretends, but he's also a nobleman and is kind of douchey, but he's not really douchey, he just pretends to be when he's in his nobleman disguise.
Yeah, Joel is douchey, but only because he's trying to keep himself alive. And there's a lot of when there's an apocalypse, people, the dark side of people comes out for sure. But all
All right,
right,
let's get some
I'm
final arguments in here then.
all right. Final art, the final thing. Go ahead.
So Zorro has this match, man. He would win. Now, granted, Joel does have an advantage with guns, and I'll give you that. But with Zorro's ability to be able to plan, he's gonna watch Joel. He's gonna know where all these like secret stashes are, and he's gonna exploit that in some way. He might remove the weapons, put them someplace else, or wait until he can get the drop on him because that's just kind of his jam. That's what he does. He sneaks around. He's good at espionage. He's good at sneaking up on people when they're not expecting it. And then when they fight, he uses insults, he uses knowledge about people to sort of put himself in a favor. And I think he could do that with Joel. I think he'd be able to exploit Joel's feelings, his personality. He would know how to push the right buttons and kind of throw him off kilter. So even though all he has is a sword and a bullwhip and a dagger, initially, I think with those sort of skills, he definitely would be able to kind of corral Joel where he wants him and then use his skills to really take him out.
Interesting. See, I see it. I see a similar argument, but the other direction. So Joel's got a purpose, protect Ellie, get Ellie to the station so she can cure the world or whatever. He's driven by like one track mind, usually survival, protecting his own. And if anyone gets in the way of that, he just like dismisses them. And I feel like Zorro would just be a big pest, just this pesky, annoying guy who keeps following him around. It's like, oh, leave me alone, man. Get out of here. And you're right. Zorro would try to exploit, so like push the buttons of Joel, but I think because Zorro's so wacky and kind of like just goofy, I don't think he could push the buttons of Joel. This is just some annoying guy. Get out of my way. And then I do think bring up an interesting point. Zorro might be able to find the caches of supplies.
Oh no, there's no might. He definitely would.
So, but Joel, I think he's got so many of them, and he knows how to like you make new ones and things. I feel like I don't let it make a big impact. Um, but at the end of the day, Joel's hardened by his life circumstances, doesn't have time for Zorro, so he's just gonna dispatch him quickly and move on. That's how I feel.
I just don't think he'd be able to because Zorro wouldn't allow for that to happen. And he would definitely exploit that whole like relationship they has with Ellie. But like in a
Well,
good way. I mean, he would never harm Ellie by any
no, he
means.
would not. No, he would. But Zorro, at the end of the day, he might protect Ellie from at the end of The Last of Us, and like Joel makes that unethical decision to keep Ellie alive, even though he could save the world with her blood or whatever. I think Zorro would make the same decision, actually. I don't think
Do you
he
think so?
would. I think so. If he had this relationship with her, I think I think as far as that's concerned, I don't know. I don't know Zorro that well, but I don't know Zorro at all, actually. I never met the man. But um but yeah, interesting. So I think rugged in the shadows, sneaking around, Joel would dominate. But Kevin says the same thing.
I
So
I think
Kali,
I think finesse in the shadows wearing a sombrero Zorro would win.
Kali, where do you stand? Your
Well,
opinion's the only one that matters.
I gotta say, when it comes to the vibes, Zorro is definitely the winner because of the whole cape and sombrero thing.
He is a more fun
However,
character for sure.
if like in an actual conflict, I feel like these are actually like legitimately good arguments. You have one person who's seen so much and lived through so much that it's kind of just monotony. It's all the same. He's hardened. He knows what he's doing. Not to mention he has a bigger arsenal. And on the other hand, you have someone who knows how to exploit a person. You have someone who easily in the middle of a fight can just say something that can make the other person drop their guard. And it's just, you have to, it's like unmovable force meets unstoppable object or something like that.
Man,
And
you sound so
it's one of
smart when you do this compared
one
to
of
the rest of people.
all time.
Yes.
But I think simply with how much that he's seen, I think that Joel will be the winner in a conflict.
Yes. Woo! Thank you, Kali. I appreciate that.
Kali, you're grounded. No, I'm kidding. You're not grounded.
You can't stop me, father.
So here's what I think's happening, and I'll take the win. Whenever Brendan's on the show, he almost always picks Kevin because
That's true, he
they have
does.
this thing against me. I think I need to
That's
have
true.
Kali on the show because I feel like I can always get you.
We should have both of them, or we need a third person.
Oh, we should be the
Like,
judge between the two of them putting on a battle. That'd be pretty fun too.
yeah, except unless they tied it up, so we'd have to have a third person as a tiebreaker.
Yeah. Well, thank
Uh,
you, Kali. I will take that win great happily, and Kevin will take that lose gracefully.
I will. I
Because
will.
he's Zorro. And Zorro is graceful. So this is fun.
Oh, I kind of want to watch a Zorro something or other now.
Yeah, dude. Why not? Have the day off today. Check it out.
Yeah,
If you are interested, recently I think Brendan, Kevin, and I talked about we were reminiscing about some PS2 games on our other podcast, the Brothers Born podcast. We did a
I
couple
have an
for.
update on that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. So I saw I was going to play Rule of Rose, a $700 PlayStation game,
Yes.
PlayStation 2 game.
Yes.
So I started playing it. I'm just about done with it. I'm probably like a good more than 3/4 of the way done with it.
That's cool.
So yeah, so that's where I'm going on that because I told you guys I would update you as soon as I finish the game. So I will do that.
Man. Looking
Dude, playing
forward to
PlayStation 2 games, it's rough, man.
it.
It's rough.
Yeah, I
The
feel it.
controls are clunky. The graphics are, I mean, they're okay, but not what we're
Not the
used to.
same. Not the same.
Yeah, but really, it's the controls. Controls are just so clunky, man. It's hard to play a PlayStation 2 game. But I've been doing it. Play DDR for a little bit, which I mentioned.
You
Yeah.
also played Mr. Mosquito. Don't forget
I did
about
play
Oh, I
Mr.
forgot about
Mosquito,
Mosquito.
Yeah, I started
I'm-
playing that again. Game's hard, man.
Well, thank you for listening. Kali, thank you for joining us. And we will catch you next time on Unlikely Throwdowns in a couple weeks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It all comes back to the drip, man.